I love games from the early 2000s. Not only do they have a charm to them, they do make me nostalgic, and I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. But it's when we go before the year 2000, I start to lose interest in the games in that era, primarily because I didn't grow up with them, and as a result I find those technical limitations hard to look past and appreciate the game for what it is. However, in the early 2000s, I did grow up with an Amstrad Mega PC and played games such as Streets of Rage, Sonic 2, and F-22 Interceptor. But I was gifted a game from a person called Rowdy Rico called Nam, or Napalm if you're from Walmart, but it is a first-person shooter similar to the style of Doom and Duke Nukem 3D, especially the latter since they are built off the same build game engine. But before I go on, I want to ask you a question. What was the first video game that you ever played? And I'm gonna actually try and guess how old you are in the comments based on your response. Also, while you're down there, leave a like. But anyways, moving on. But you play as Marine Corps Sergeant Alan the Bear Westmoreland, and his backstory is pretty funny considering the publisher at the time said it was supposed to be an authentic Vietnam War experience. And in some regards they weren't wrong, but they did make you a genetically modified super soldier by the CIA who has damage resistance and is proficient in all weaponry. At least with Doom, it was never bound by reality because you're some super soldier who's slaying demons. But in all seriousness, this game was made in 1998 for MS-DOS by the TNT Team, and I'm gonna draw some comparisons to other games released the same year. And I know it's stupid to say stuff like, oh, the graphics are bad, because I don't think the devs are gonna see this and be like, you know what, Tantu, you know what, you are absolutely right, we're gonna come back and we're gonna go and update the graphics. But when you compare them to other games of the same year, such as Half-Life, Resident Evil 2, Metal Gear Solid, and oh my god, Tenchu Stealth Assassins, I grew up with this on the PS1, I remember playing it and I completely forgot it existed.
I know what you want. You want the stone.
Yeah, it sounded much better when I was 5, but due to them using the build game engine, it does make Nam look dated for the year. If you told me it released the same year as Doom or Wolfenstein, I would have believed you. But yes, while it can look laughable at times, I swear this looks like it's from Minecraft, I personally feel like they did a good job making the jungle believable, especially considering what they had to work with. You have ambient noise of waterfalls, animals, explosions, gunfire in the distance. And the Vietcong can even camouflage themselves, and as an added bonus, they don't speak broken English, they speak actual Viet. And for the Vietnamese people watching this, tell me, for starters, what they're saying. Are they insulting my mother, or are they just saying some random Vietnamese nonsense? But while the publisher supposedly said that you're getting an authentic experience, you're not really going to be getting a grounded experience, because this game very much plays out like an action movie. A very standout moment for me was storming the beach and having planes flying and bomb stuff and gunning down Vietcong coming from the trees with my M60. But speaking of Vietcong, there is some variety between them. You have the standard grunts, you have ones that wear the non-la and act as suicide bombers. I don't know if this was an actual thing done in the Vietnam War, I wouldn't be surprised if this did happen, but I'd like to be proven otherwise. You have some that can hide in trees and snipe you, some that can use mounted rocket launchers, which has caused some hair-raising moments, and you have ones that use a machine gun, and they are probably the deadliest considering they can mow you down in seconds. There are no boss battles, unfortunately. I feel like this game could have had a couple that were probably memorable, like a giant buff 5'4" Vietnamese guy who throws a sickle at you like a boomerang. Just being hypothetical here, but you know, it's a little bit disappointing there's no boss battles. But Vietcong aren't the only threat you have to deal with in the jungle, and this is where I start to get frustrated with the game, because all the technical and graphical limitations don't bother me. It's the overall difficulty. The easiest one is incredibly hard, especially when you compare it to easy mode in games such as Duke Nukem and Doom, where the easiest game mode is made for you to have a good time. Of course, in these games, when you bump up the difficulty, it makes you test your skills, and then you get to the highest difficulty, which is really for masochists who want to speedrun the game, but Nam isn't like that. I promise you, you will have a hard time completing the first level on the first try, and this is because not only do you die quick from gunfire, especially machine gun nests, but you have to deal with bombing runs. I don't know if they're friendlies or enemy MiGs, but they come in and bomb the shit out of you. I was on the verge of tears when I was about to beat the level and a rocket strike came in and it took me out. But you have to deal with landmines and chemical weapons, and while I know the South did have to deal with some pretty gruesome traps, I didn't find it appropriate in a game where movement is really fast like in Doom and Duke Nukem. And this is why when people get NARM, they expect it to play out like Doom and Duke Nukem, where they can run around with invincibility and basically gun down Vietcong. But it isn't really that applicable because the game forces you to take a slower and more methodical approach to things, which is another reason why you'll find a lot of people complain about the difficulty of this game, and I can't really blame them. But overall, the TTK is really fast for both you and the enemies, even on the easiest difficulty, and it doesn't help despite taking extreme caution and taking things slowly and being methodical. There's always the chance that Uncle Sam will either drop a bomb on you or you'll walk over a landmine. But in terms of weaponry, you only get to use US weapons such as the M16, which fires 20 rounds instead of 18. I'm gonna have to dock it a couple of points for historical accuracy. I'm kidding. You have the M60, which is my favorite gun because I feel like Rambo running around with it. Also because it has a great rate of fire, which is essential in this game. You also get a pump action shotgun, which can one-shot at close range, but is pretty useless at long. You have the M72 Lure, M79 grenade launcher, claymores, grenades, and even sniper rifles, which can be used scoped. It's good for long distance targets, but it's pretty hard to use in close range due to the zoom. But you also have other hidden weapons around the map. Like on the first level, you can find a secret area and it'll tell you when you find it, and you can use a flamethrower. You're able to find these little radio boxes around maps, and if you press them, they'll actually call it an airstrike to target people in front of you. The maps themselves, they can seem maze-like, but they did feel pretty linear at times, especially when a lot of areas were blocked off with invisible walls. But you are able to take shortcuts here and there, but I tend to avoid those because I honestly felt like I was stepping on a landmine as soon as I got off the main trail. But the game mostly is set in the jungle, and some maps are at nighttime, and it can be really difficult to see things at times, especially only on one level you get to use night vision goggles, which I feel like they could have given it to us for every level. But you also have rice fields, destroyed buildings and bridges, as well as little Vietnamese villages, and you can interact with a fair few things, especially in one scenario where you can actually push a car into a whole crowd of Vietcong. It was pretty funny. Now, the soundtrack is alright, it's nothing too memorable, and it's not something I go back and listen to, especially when you take into account the Doom soundtrack, which is just probably one of the most iconic soundtracks in video game history, as well as the Wolfenstein one, but for different reasons. But it does set a Vietnam tone. The voice acting is nothing too special. It can be pretty funny at times, not on the scale of Resident Evil 1, but it does the job.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life.
But the AI can be a hit or a miss at times. One cool feature is that the Vietcong can actually play dead. It'll be the dead sprite, and once you get near them, they'll stand up and start shooting you. However, you can recruit friendlies to follow you around, such as a medic and an engineer, but I didn't realize this, but I recruited one of them and I started to walk into battle. I'm like, where the hell are they? Are they dead? No, they couldn't actually leave the little starting area because they didn't, I don't know if pathfinding is the correct terminology to use, but they couldn't move out of the starting area, and I had to navigate them through the door. But overall, this is the oldest Vietnam War game that I've played, and if you can get it for cheap, I do recommend it because it is very fun at times, but it can also be very frustrating to deal with. And I am very thankful for Rowdy Rico for actually gifting me this. It means a lot when someone spends $10 on you. Honestly, no one really ever does that except for live streams and this scenario. But I'm gonna end today's video there. I hope you guys did enjoy it, because if you did, please do consider leaving a like, subscribing, and sharing the video with your friends. Anyways, my name is TNT, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.